Okay, this is another example of this is pretty good work. This is one of these splice locations where they intercept the conduit, and that's the same company's FiberVault. But this is a real good example of what tinting the concrete, or in some cases the epoxy top layer, what it looks like after the street starts to fade. And the tinted concrete or the tinted epoxy never changes color. It either chips off and exposes more concrete in the event of it being epoxied, or the concrete just chips away a little bit and there starts to be gaps in between concrete and the asphalt. Now, that good work back there aside, here is how they kind of triangulated the cut across the street. And here's where it really just looks bad. Again, this is concrete all the way to the top, and there's a gap, probably a 1/4 inch, between the two sides of the pavement. And in this case here, we have the concrete sunk down. They didn't fill it to the top, or when they did, once the water evaporated and the concrete dried, there's a good 1/4 to 1/2 inch gap around this entire piece. So you can see that this is the ugly part of trenching, and this is a street that's probably not traveled too much, but it's more than just a cul-de-sac, so this gets a fair amount of traffic. And what happens as the traffic increases over this asphalt to concrete to asphalt connection, the asphalt starts to chip away, and the resulting micro trench just is further visible. And this is again following the trench line. This is a pretty good one, but the tinted concrete looks like crap, in my opinion, as a 30-year telecommunications veteran. Here's where as cars turn right at this intersection, they start to chip away at the concrete that was laid, and some of the breakdown starts to happen. And then we come out here to the street, where there's the triangulation again. Across the street, here it is, a pretty awful looking micro trench that was visible, but then a large patch that was done, and not sure who would have started this patch, but at the end of the patch there's another FiberVault. So it's very possible that this fiber company had to dig this entire piece of pavement out of the way in order to make sure that they did not conflict with the sewer system and all the gas lines or whatever's here. But this is an interesting look at. This is how a asphalt to concrete joint looks, irrespective of whether it's been trenched or not. And again, you've got a little bit of gap. We can see this in our own neighborhood of times that they've patched the asphalt. A little bit of a tiny gap, and then the micro trench starts, and this becomes a 1.5 to 2 inch gap with varying degrees of sinkage. So as much as you try to hide this little tiny trench, after 4 or 5 years, this is what it can look like. And if this whole street was roto-milled to get let's say the city's going to replace the asphalt as the last case, this would all disappear, which is a good thing. But if that's not going to happen, then 3 or 4 years after these guys are gone, this is what our neighborhood streets could look like. And again, think about the stamped concrete we have on St. Michael. That's going to add a complicating factor to it. Again, none of these are impossible to overcome, but the key is bird dogging the contractor and the owner of the company that hired the contractor so that this kind of street cut doesn't happen. And one of the things we're going to have to figure out is how the city side folks are going to bore into the street. Take a street like St. Michael where I live. They're mostly zero lot lines with 5 or 6 feet of driveway, and that may or may not allow a large enough pit to be dug on either side of the street so a boring machine can successfully bore underneath the asphalt to run a drop to the other side of the street. So again, another challenge that we're going to have to overcome. This is a vault that's been here for a little while. You can see it's pretty much buried. But again, a little bit of landscaping covering it up. There's the fiber optic mark. This is a really pretty ratty looking interception point. But it also is another area that was had a pretty significant excavation. And my guess is because they were required to do that because the water and wastewater and possibly gas service here. But that explains this large excavation that's been asphalted over. But you start to see how the concrete interferes with the material match between concrete, asphalt, and this micro trench.